First of all, thank you to INVALSI for this great opportunity. Perfect. For this great opportunity to discuss problems and opportunities about integrating different sources of data. And okay, I would like to talk of what can be called the third mission of INVALSI data. Okay, I borrow the idea of missions from what is stated about universities. Okay, it is said that universities have three missions. First one is research. Second is teaching, and the third is outreach, or something like that, which means outreach means going beyond the limits of academia and trying to speak the language of society. And one basic point, one prominent point in speaking the tongue of society is supporting policymakers. Okay, that is authorities making decisions at all levels and in all places. And here we meet the Italian puzzle. We know that in Italy, things are not homogeneous. Things change according to the level, according to the territory, and even rules are not the same in all places and at all levels. So it's really a puzzle. And in this puzzle, I will focus on a specific level, which is level of local authorities, and more precisely the level of Provincia. I will draw on my experience of a statistician working in Provincia, the Provincia di Lucca. It's the sponsor, I have to say it. And I will try to tell you something about my experience of my practical attempt to put together different sources in order to produce a picture, to produce knowledge which is functional to the aims, to targets of my organization. Provincia are local authorities, and they retain some powers, not many, but some powers, in a few relevant areas. For example, in the planning of the school network, according to principles set by regional authorities. They have powers in the maintenance of school buildings, and they have the duty to collect and process data on behalf of other local authorities. And in Tuscany, I don't know if it's the same elsewhere because it's a puzzle as I told, but in Tuscany, Provincia retains specific powers in planning and management of upper secondary schools. Okay, particularly with reference to the educational supply. And besides, Provincia must provide support to comuni, municipalities, for their planning tasks in the field of primary and lower secondary schools. So in our system, planning powers for primary and lower secondary schools are attributed to municipalities, while powers in the planning of upper secondary schools are retained by Provincia. Maybe there is a rationale in this, but I don't know. Okay, and but this is the fact. Obviously, this is a quite a challenging task for a local authority. Local authorities don't have all the resources, the skills which are necessary probably for this task. However, I think it's too important. It's task that we have to undertake in a way. Okay, so we're talking about planning. I think that planning means to look at the future. And this entails trying to figure out aspects, quantitative and qualitative aspects of the population which will attend schools in the future. Okay, and this is the web page where one can consult and download demographic projections made by ISTAT. Okay, okay. These are long-term projection. They go until 2065, which is a very long, very long term. But these projections were released about 3 or 4 years ago. Unfortunately, from my point of view, they have some drawbacks. Okay. First of all, these are projections which are provided at most at NUTS2 level, which is Regioni. Okay. They don't have a breakdown by citizenship. Okay. Which is a crucial point, because citizenship is we heard it this morning. It's a crucial point in all processes happening within our schools. But above all, these projections are based on overly optimistic assessment of birth and migration trends. Okay, this is a problem. Obviously, is a problem, and projections will be reviewed, obviously, but at the moment they are too optimistic. Okay, and this is what happened to birth. This is the trend of the number of births in my territory, in the province of Lucca, and there has been a fall in the number of births, which was greater than expected. And I think that we have reached a sort of plateau, okay, but at a very low level, which is lower than projected, okay. And this is the picture about migration. In this plot, I have plotted the migration balances by age, okay, from 2002 to 2017. These are microdata taken from ISTAT, okay. What is the point? The point is I highlighted in green the ages which impact on the school population, okay. In green. Okay, what is the point? The point is that in the last few years, the balances in these ages have gone to 0. Okay, so migration has become neutral with reference to the impact on the size and composition of a school population. What does it mean? It means that in the future, in the next years, because these trends are, I think that these trends will prosecute in the future. Well, will continue, sorry, in the future. Okay, I am not a wizard. This is my opinion, but I have good reasons to think about, to think that. Okay, so in this situation, the future population, especially future population which will attend upper secondary schools, will depend on the on previous birth. Okay, so it's a population which is already in our territory, so it's quite easy to make more realistic projections, even at a lower territorial level, projecting the existing population. And that is what I did for my territory, okay? And I made projections at 5, 10, and 15 years, not only for the whole province, but also for sub-provincial areas, Okay, so I split territory according to areas delimited by our planning system, and I did separate projections for Italians and for foreign students. Okay, well, what is the point? The point is what I have highlighted in red. In 2035, the population attending schools in my Provincia will fall of about 1/3. Okay, about 1/3, with some territorial variation, but the trend is quite strong in all territories. And this is a revolution. This is a revolution. What is the point? The point is that the situation, the amount of students, I'm talking about students attending upper secondary schools. Okay, why? Because that's my main field of interest, but these projections can be made even for lower grades. Okay, what is the point? The point is that the situation will remain stable for the next 5 years. And then the number of students will fall abruptly. And this is very bad news, because when the situation is stable, hard decisions are hindered, are delayed. And this is what is happening in my territory, but I bet this is happening even in your territories. Okay, so we are not doing anything now, and we won't do anything in the next few years, and then we won't have the time to tackle the changes that will be extremely rapid. Okay, so this is quite a worrying picture. And there's a point which is very important. Number of students will shrink, but the number and the share of foreign students will increase. Okay, because all the shrinkage will be due to a fall in the number of Italian students, while foreign students will increase both in absolute size, that in share, in the relative, in the rate. Okay, and so this is very important. When I have to think about the future school and to plan something, to project something for the schools in my territory, I have to confront with this phenomenon. I have to understand where foreign students are, because foreign students are not distributed evenly among territories and among schools. Okay, so the data come from, this is the first step of integration of data. Data about distribution of foreign students can be downloaded from the portale del MIUR, okay? Open Portale Unico dei Dati della Scuola. It's the Ministry of Education, okay? Which released this open data. And downloading and working with open data, I could rebuild the distribution of foreign students in the schools of my territory. This is the distribution of foreign students. These are not, these data are not available to local policymakers. They're not available. Local policymakers don't know this data. Okay, it's this data must be built. It's hard to and must be given to local decision makers. And it's not when we come to school, when we come to education, data are scattered everywhere. This is a sign that school is not so strategic in our in our systems, because we are beginning now to build integrated sources. Okay, the register you talked about is something very important, but it's even interesting that you're building it now because 50 years ago we had to start building this. It's not your fault, obviously, but I think it's something that should oh, in general, yes, I think something in general. Okay. No, okay. And but there is these are upper secondary schools, and it's interesting because I have compressed the table. There are top and the bottom. Okay, there's a lot of variation. The percentage of foreign students varies from 2% and reaches 20%. Lucca is not a territory with many foreign people. Okay, it's medium immigration territory, but there is such a variation. Okay, I'll make you a question. Which are the licei and which are the vocational schools? Which are the licei classici? Okay, licei classici is 2%. Okay, it's 2%. Vocational schools are 20%. And this is another point which has to be told loudly because it's important. It's something that we must think about when we figure the school of the future. And this is the percentage of foreign people in lower secondary schools in the municipality of Lucca. It's much smaller. It's a single municipality, but even in a single municipality, lower secondary schools. So there's no tracking here. We are before the tracking process. Before the tracking process, we have schools with 4% and schools with 22, but it will become 25. It will become 30. It will become 40%. Okay, while the 4% risks to remain 4%, and this is a problem. This is I don't know what problem, but I'm sure this is a problem. And so let's come to INVALSI data. INVALSI data allow to understand not only where students, foreign students are, but even which language they speak. Okay, because in the INVALSI questionnaire, there's a question which is submitted to all students, not only foreign students, Italian and foreign students, which is which language do you speak at home? This is basic. Okay, and if you look at the answers, there's a great disaggregation. Okay, it's not Italian and foreign language. It's Italian, Albanese, Arab, Chinese, Croatian, French, and so on. Okay, maybe we can discuss this list. Maybe because when new immigrants come from other countries, maybe this list should be updated. This is important. We have to update it, our lists, our categories, our classification. This is very important. And I come to the point. And okay, okay. This is a table. This table is an excerpt for schools in the Provincia of Lucca. Okay, schools are identified by a number, and for every school, I have the number of students which did the INVALSI test. We are in the 8th grade. We are in the last year of lower secondary school. So in the first school, I have, I don't know because I don't see, I have 29 Italians, 1 Arab, 1, and so on. Okay, and the last column is the percentage of students that speak a foreign language. Same variation than before, but we have here we have the information about the language, which is an enormous amount of information, because new data didn't give the breakdown by citizenship, by nationality, which is basic, because an Arab is different from a French. And Chinese is different from a Romanian. Romanians speak Italian. They have no problems. They are like Italians. You can't distinguish a Romanian from an Italian under any aspect. Language, they live everywhere. I speak for my territory, but I think it's the same everywhere. An Arab or a Chinese or a Pakistani, they live all together. They speak their language. They don't speak Italian. So this is a basic information. The last point, which is basic, is at what level of geography and social, cultural disaggregation should data be provided? Because to me, a number, the number of the school doesn't mean anything. As a local decision maker, I have to know the name of the school. I know that there are privacy problems, but we have to sit around the table, talk to each other, and decide which are our targets, because you can't give me a number. Okay, here schools are identified by a number and by a commuting area. Okay, the first column are sistemi locali del lavoro, which is the maximum level of disaggregation provided by INVALSI data, and this is not enough. I can understand from this data which school is behind the data, but it's not correct. This is not correct. Why do I have to try to guess? I need that information. I need it, but not me. Decision makers need that information. They need to know where Chinese are, where Romanian are, which are the problems in each school. And this is necessary. These are the needs of local authorities. And these are the data which build legitimation around my work as a statistician. Because if I can't give this data to the local decision maker, I can get his trust. And so my function is weak, okay? And I don't want to be weak. So I would like to do something for my territory, for my land. Okay, so the very important thing is this one. We have to decide what we want, che cosa vogliamo fare da grandi in Italian, because now it's time to do it, because the future is just around the corner. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you. Are there any questions? It's very. Your question is very important also for Italian National Statistical Institute, yeah. But it's very difficult to disaggregate at local level for us. And this is a challenge for us. And in fact, we have the Agenda 2030, and we have a database on sustainable development goals. And we arrive at province local and also municipalities local for many indicators. And we also have a statistical experimental at municipality level. Do you know statistics, experimental statistics? There is a web page of this, but it's difficult because the garante,
Okay.
also INVALSI have many problems with
I know,
garante.
but for example, there's a protocol at system level. We share a code of conduct, okay, and we are ready to take responsibility for these aspects.
Yes,
and we should be allowed to treat this data on behalf of our territories. I think so. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
It's a problem.
Yeah,
Yes.
hi. I just have a couple of questions. The first question is if, because you are looking, especially in the last table, they were INVALSI data, so you have a number instead and the name of the school.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if the Regional Board of Education, the Ufficio Scolastico Regionale, has information about the composition within the school in terms of language spoken or
No. They ask me.
Okay.
Okay. They ask what I'm doing. This is the question. They ask to me what I'm doing. So this is the situation.
Okay. Fine. And the second is that you're saying that the future is around the corner because you have shown this graph with a very sharp decrease in number of students and pupils. And I was wondering if this trend has started in Italy many years before 2021. So why is it so relevant now with respect to what happened in the last 20 years? It's been always the same. The number of students has been decreasing since the baby boom. So,
okay, the answer is because the answer is because I was talking about upper secondary schools, and in between 2007 and 2010 there was a strong increase in birth. Due to immigration. It was due to the entering of Romania in the European community, okay? And there was an increase in birth. It's I showed in the graph, there's a peak in the trend of birth. And so these people now are arriving, they were born in 2007, 2008, and now they are arriving at in upper secondary schools. So now in upper secondary schools, there is a projected fall, which is already happening at lower levels. Okay, so we had this in primary schools, and we are having this in lower secondary schools, but this is not enough to make to move decisions. Okay, we are building now schools for a population that won't exist in the future. So now we have to think of, we have to project our schools with alternative targets. Those buildings will have to be used for other purposes. For example, in a peripheric area, they will be probably they will have to become the service structures for older people. But you have to think it now when you're projecting, because otherwise it will be a loss of resources if you have to change things in the future. I don't know if I gave an answer. Yeah, but this is hard to say. In this moment, we don't see this. We have migration, but not this kind of migration. We don't have families coming. We have single individuals coming, and we will have women coming to look after our elderly people, but they don't have children. They don't increase the students' population.
Yeah, yes.
Just to thank you for the presentation, because from the point of view of academics, I think it's very interesting to hear from professionals who are working on the territory for the local administration. So I think it's really very interesting. Of course, this problem that you cannot identify schools, it's a very big problem in terms of planning, as you said, in terms of impact evaluation of some programs, because most often if you implement an intervention in selected schools and you want to link the data, this is also a problem because they will not give you the info. For example, if you want some INVALSI data, it's very difficult to get the data that you really need because there will be problems not only on the identification of the children, but also on the schools. And this limits enormously the potential of, so of course it's not, it's a problem of data regulation, data protection laws. So I don't think we can do much here, but I think it's very, very important point.
I agree.
Thank you. Thank you, Lorenzo, for this interesting presentation indeed. I have a question for you and also for the colleagues from ISTAT. Do you know whether the regulation in different countries differ compared to the Italian one? Do you know whether in France, in Germany, I mean, municipalities or local authorities can access this kind of information, this level of information? So, thank you.
The last regulation is a European one. So it's common to all the European countries. However, you have decrees implementing that are specific for the country. I'm not an expert of this field, but what I observed, having contact with a lot of colleagues, is that especially in northern countries, they don't have such constraints. So they have a lot of registers linking the persons for everything from public and private things, also bank. Yeah. So I suppose that it's the way our decrees, national decrees implementing the European regulation are particularly careful in ensuring privacy and confidentiality of people.
Okay, thank you. We close the session and it's time for lunch.